So I guess I will ask the last question here because I think there's all kinds of tangents we could go off on here, and to be honest, I'd like to go off on all of them, but there can be only one. So I want to wrap it up by saying, how do we get back to that place where rationality is valued above all else? Like, how do we get back to the Enlightenment? Because I think we're rocketing away from it at the moment. You've said it's a political problem and politics must be solved by
Education.
humans. Yeah.
We need to educate people. To have a system built on democracy requires an educated population. So
Absolutely, it
this
does.
is not vocational training. This is a big thing people get wrong. Vocational training isn't education. Vocational training is training. If you want to learn how to use a computer, how to do an SVD matrix, or how to program vector operations in computer simulations of physics, then great. But none of that's education.
Mm.
Education is not how do I get a job, contrary to what people think. Education aids you in getting a better job because you can think better. It is philosophy, it is literature, it is the Western classics, which, contrary to what people try and tell you, isn't anti everything the arguments are that it's racist. I
Mm.
mean, there are quite a number of African writers in the Greek literature. Sophia is a female um, from the island of Lesbos, hence the name lesbian, because Sophia wrote a whole lot of love poetry about women, and she's a woman.
Somewhat
So,
familiar with that,
I
yeah.
mean, generally speaking, we love to say how no one wrote about lesbian sort of activity before the 20th century, but
Hmm.
that's complete bunk.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone claim that nothing was written about it before the 20th century. It seems to have a fairly rich
Oh,
history,
then you
actually.
should actually join some of my English literature classes. They sit there going, no one talked about lesbianism before the end of the 19th century. And even then, it was very hardly discussed at all.
Yeah, see, this is the problem. People have such a warped view of what actually happened in history. Yeah, we need to correct this.
And I sit there bringing up Latin and Greek texts,
Hmm.
medieval texts. Do you realize there is a whole swath of French chivalric literature about women from the
I,
14th century?
I confess I did not know that.
Hmm.
Okay, so when you
So,
say that in your classes, what kind of response do you get? Do people say, "Oh, that's interesting, Craig. You must check it
uh,
out"?
depends on the classes. In some of my class, it depends on the school. The more woke schools generally hate me.
Can't imagine why.
The sort of more traditional schools are quite interested. So
Hmm.
I've got the polar extremes.
I don't doubt that you do. Yeah. Yes, it's a very interesting world you inhabit, Craig, and it's been an interesting discussion. I certainly hope it's not another 2 years before we get to talk again. But thanks for sharing all of that with us. Just there's one thing I've always wanted to ask you. I think this is a very fundamental question. Where do you buy your suits?
Um, I get them from a range of different places.
Really?
Um, so there are some from. There was a tailor down here, not too far from the office, but they're closed. Unfortunately, COVID killed them. Um,
Mm.
there is Hunt. I've bought some from Hunt on Savile Row. There are some uh, other places. I've got some in Hong Kong before. Um, Hong Kong's really good in that way. You can
I know.
um,
Singapore
when you're in
too.
a conference for a week or something, you
Hmm.
can have the tailor come to the hotel, and they will measure you up, and in 3 days they'll deliver all your suits.
Excellent.
and
Yeah.
they're really well made, and the, yeah.
That's good to know. I thought you were going to say you got them all from the
I've
one
had that as
place.
an emergency service as well.
Right, right.
No, all different places. I've had that as an emergency service too. I had a bag lost on the way to one of the conferences in the past, and um, uh, luckily, Chinese tailors in Hong Kong are magnificent.
They are.
They managed to actually make me a suit overnight for a lot of extra money, of course, because they dropped everything, but they will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that certainly clears that up. Thanks for sharing it with us. Right, Craig Wright, thanks a lot for coming on the show, and look forward to talking to you again soon.